Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if I can have your attention once again, please. As I mentioned earlier, this is our 50th anniversary here at PIR, and we've been joined by several of the legendary drivers who have raced here in years past, and it's a great honor, especially as I told you the other day, as a kid who grew up in Texas, to be joined by a fellow Texan and a man who many consider the greatest race car driver of all time, AJ Foyt.
It's great to be back here in Phoenix. This is really where I got my start. With the late Clint Bronner and Jimmy Bryan, there's one that gave me my first contract to go to Indy, so I really feel like I'm back at home. I mean, it's been many years ago, but Phoenix has always been good to me. And like I said, my first major contract with Dean Van Lines and Clint Bronner was right from here. So Phoenix has really helped AJ get where he come from.
Now, Mr. Foyt, you won the first professional race ever held here on March 22nd, 1964. Can you just talk a little bit about your memories of that race, what you guys thought opening up a brand new racetrack, and just kind of how the race unfolded?
Well, actually, the race was wonderful. I had a little Aero Commander airplane. I kind of landed on the back strip here. Back then, I don't remember, it's kind of the road course they had here, and just so many improvements has been made here since then. It's just hard to believe, First of all, who'd ever think I'd still be here? And no, it's just amazing to see the growth of Phoenix, even where I stay out at the Wigwam, because when I used to come back here and test with Goodyear, it's really nothing out there but I guess alfalfa fields or patches or whatever. Even out here, you didn't see the houses. So it's amazing, just unbelievable, to be truthful with you. And I think one of the best things they did to the racetrack was the tunnel, because we used to have to park up in the hill up there and then cross, and if somebody got hurt, they had to stop the race to take them across. And I went through there a couple times like that, getting hurt out here. But it's just amazing how far Phoenix has come and what a beautiful facility it is. And like I said, Phoenix is where I got my first big contract to go to Indianapolis, which I kind of owe Phoenix something. So enjoyable to come back here.
And you kind of alluded to it, but just how have you seen kind of the track evolve as technology has improved, as tires have improved, and as the track has been tweaked a little bit over time?
Well, everything's been improved. It's been repaved, and the pit walls and all that. It's so much more safety, because when we first come here, if you remember, well, you don't probably remember, you're not old enough, but it was Armco, and I'll never forget when Bobby Unser on the dog leg went through the fence and it went over the roll bar, and who would ever think he was living? He didn't even get a scratch. And like I say, it's just hard to believe, and like I say, the way it was 50 years ago, I mean, the improvements they made, it's just unbelievable.
Open up questions. Michael Knight back in the back will lead off.
Hi, AJ. Michael Knight. How are you?
Nice seeing you again.
Hey, this was before when you were driving, but this track and a lot of others have lights, and Saturday night racing has become popular in a lot of places. A cup race here used to be run under the lights. First of all, do you like night racing?
I've always liked night racing. Most of my racing through the years was at night, a lot of the sprint cars and midgets and all that. So, no, I've always liked night racing. I think it's going to be the next big thing. Stock cars and Indy cars and all that night racing, because if you got a 100-degree day, you got to be pretty damn tough to sit up in that grandstand, because it gets hot. I didn't realize how hot it was when I was racing, because I was in the car and the air was blowing on. But since I've retired and sitting in the pits, people don't realize how hot that pits gets, and so you can imagine sitting up in the grandstand how hot it gets. So I think that's going to be the coming thing, to be truthful with you.
AJ, when you used to run here on Saturdays and then go to Manzanita on Saturday night, did you do that because you loved driving at Manzi, or to win the $500 to win there?
No, I've always liked Manzanita Park. Was a great little dirt racetrack, and here, if you like to race, you like to race. I know a lot of people jumped on my good friend Tony Stewart for running sprint cars. Like I said, life's very short. If you can't do what you want to do in life, and like I said, in 1961, driving for Bo Sealfast, it was like 3 days before the race, and I went and raced Raceway Park with a sprint car. And then in '74, I was sitting on the pole at the end and went to the fairground. They ain't drove sprint cars in 4 or 5 years, you know. So if you like to race, you're going to race regardless if it's for $1 or $1 million. And I think that's what I always liked to do. I didn't care about how much the purse was, because I can remember, I think 2 or 3 days after Indy one year, after we finished there, I went to Terre Haute, which is a little bull ring. But, you know, if you want to race, you got to race.
AJ, last thing. We used to have a dog leg at Trenton, but it went right. The dog leg here has always been one of the most famous characteristics of this track. Did you like that layout?
Well, one thing about this track, and actually Trenton, this track's a lot harder to get handling on than Trenton, New Jersey was, because this track here, if you came here, and what I liked about it, if you tested here on the Indy car and you got it feeling halfway comfortable, you could go to Indianapolis and run very fast. This is the only racetrack, I think, that I've ever been to that you could test the Indy car on. If you got it feeling comfortable, you go to Indianapolis and run pretty fast, because 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 are completely different turns. And, you know, you got to get through 1 and 2 pretty hard, and then 3 and 4, when you get set up good, you can pretty much run flat-footed all the way through there. And the dog leg just keeps the boreness out. It kind of keeps you awake when you come off a 2 back there. But, no, I think it's very interesting for the drivers and also very interesting for the fans.
Thank you.
We'll go Stan and then Marty, and then back down to Tom.
Hi, AJ, back here in the corner as well. With Stan Creekmore with RPMTonight.com. When you first came here, that very first race, what in your mind did you think about the track, and how did you put together everything you needed to get that win? That's question number 1 for you.
Well, actually, you know, in '64, believe it or not, I think I won every race but 1 or 2. So we had a hell of a year going, and Big Noddy, you know, was a crew chief, and we worked awful good together. And I don't know, we just come here and just run some tests, and everything just fell in line, you know. And, you know, one other track that people forget about, and I won my first championship here with USAC, was the mile dirt track. And the championship between the late, great Roger Ward, and I had to win that race to win the championship, and lucky enough, I won the race. And I had almost a lap lead, and Big Noddy come out shaking a wheel hammer and at me, because I guess I wasn't slowing down like he wanted me to. Like, hi, damn it, you're going to break, and we're running for the championship, and you're leading race. What the hell are you trying to prove? But, no, I've had a lot of good times here, and like I said, Phoenix has been very good to me.
Well, you've almost answered my second question. Phoenix looks at its 50 years of existence. There are thousands of drivers who have been here. You're number 1 in Phoenix's mind. What does that mean to you?
Well, first of all, I never thought I'd be around that long. I don't know. You know, it's kind of, the whole world's changed from 50 years ago. I mean, you'd see the government the way it is, and racing is completely, I wouldn't say 100% different. It's still racing, but it's probably 75 or 80%, because, you know, you take the stock cars, so much data there is different than it was back then. You take the Indy cars, you can't even fire the damn things up without a computer. But all in all, it's better for the racing. It's better for the people. It's more safer for the drivers, and that's the biggest thing, is safety. If you look back when I qualified at Indy, there probably ain't but 3 or 4 of us still living, and it wasn't because they died of old age.
Go Marty, back behind the column down there.
Good morning, sir. Marty Smith, ESPN. You know Tony Stewart better than any of us do. What do you think the impact of the broken leg is on him? What have you seen, how that's affected him?
Oh, I don't think it's going to affect him, because Tony's a racer, and, I mean, he might limp or be crippled, but hell, look at me. But it never affected me when I got burned or nothing, so I don't think it's going to affect Tony. Once you're a racer and you're a hard racer, I mean, Tony ain't going to settle for second or third, you know, and Tony will run just as hard for $1 as he will for $1 million. And I think that's where me and him become friends, you know. And, you know, a lot of people badmouth him for running a sprint car race and for everything he had going for him. But, you know, like I said, life's short. If you can't do what you want to do in life, what the hell's the use of living? So I respect him for racing. I mean, because just because it was a little bull ring racetrack he got hurt on, a lot of people done that before, and so you got to respect Tony for what he's doing.
We'll come down in the front row, Tom.
Tom Jensen, FoxSports.com. Speaking of Tony, when you guys sitting around having a couple beers, do you argue about who's the better racer, who had the better career, and what's the outcome of that?
Well, really, you know, the last time we probably did that was at Annapolis doing some stuff, and they had the trophy. I said, Tony, I don't see your damn picture up there. So we've had a lot of fun, and like the Daytona 500 on the jab area. And I said, Tony, you know, I was fortunate enough to win this race. What are you going to do? No, but we're great friends. It's just a matter of time before he wins all these races.
Okay. Dustin, here in the middle row.
Dustin Long, MRN.com. You know, a lot of people refer to Tony as the AJ Foyt of this generation, being the AJ Foyt. When you hear people refer to that, is that something you take with pride, or is that something with every race driver's got a little ego and say, hey, I'm a little better than him?
No, I tell you what, in my day, I was a pretty good race driver. In this day, Tony Stewart's a damn good race driver. So, you know, and that's what I've always said in racing. You know, that a lot of people said you're one of the best that ever was. But what would say back in the early days, I was as good as Ted Harn or Wilbur Shaw or something like that. So in my time, I was a pretty good race driver. And I think that passes because I'm just glad to be included amongst some of them greats way back there because there ain't no sign says AJ Foyt would beat anybody or like Tony Stewart. It's just great to be in your time to be up there in front because I take my hat off to some of the guys. I've seen some of the cars they drove, and there's no way I'd drive them down the freeway straight as fast as some of them drove them. So I don't know. I'm just glad to be named amongst them because I don't feel I've ever been any better than anybody else that's ever sitting in a race car. But like I said, in my time, I was pretty good.
Go Jim, and then up here, Jeff.
Jim Peltz, the LA Times. AJ, how are you feeling? I mean, now that you've had those surgeries and whatnot are behind you, I mean, will you go to Indy in May feeling better than you have in a number of years?
Well, I think so. You know, last year I just got out of a hospital with a back injury, you know, operated on, and then about 4 months ago, I guess it come from all this racing, I don't know, or driving my bulldozer. I had to have a hip put in. I got where I couldn't walk. And then I was going to go all this year without my right leg. Both of my legs, you know, they're going to amputate my left leg at Watkins Glen, you know, Elkhart leg, where I got hurt so bad. And I said, well, just send me back to Texas. I'm damn sure I didn't want it up in Wisconsin in a garbage can. I said, and so the doctor said, would I sign release? Nobody's there, and I was still conscious to reestablish blood flow. I said, yeah, but no amputation. Just remember that. Just put me on a plane and get me home. But then they had to put the left knee in, you know, about 5 or 6 years ago. And if you probably recall, a couple years ago, I got that damn staph infection from the hospital, and that was probably worse than any broken bones or anything. And I was about like 4.5 months where they had to put the PICC line into me in my heart. And of course, I lost 41 pounds, but I gained it back because they used to couple people call my wife and said, you know, AJ loves ice cream, which I do. And she said, I know he's sick because he won't eat it. But the other day, you know, middle of December, my right leg got where I just couldn't stand it no more, and it's been operated on 2 or 3 times. They put a knee in me December the 12th, so I'm feeling so much better every day. I'm kind of a little nervous when I first get up and take steps. That's the reason you see me trying to keep weight on it, because I'm just not too damn sure what the hell is going to do, all this fake stuff. But, you know, it's better than what it was, and I'm getting out of a lot of pain, so that's the biggest thing.
Okay, we got time for about 3 more. We'll go Jeff, Jerry, and then end up with Mark in the back.
Jeff Gluck from USA Today. AJ, are drivers too friendly with each other these days? Why don't they fight anymore like they used to?
That's the changes in this world. No, I can't answer that question because I never was a fighter. I was kind of a baby and a coward myself. But, you know, it just don't happen like it used to. And I think with the corporations like that, they don't like to see things like that. I think the fans do, but a lot of the corporation, you know, your big people, I don't know if I'd have made it in this time or not. But I think that's one of the big things. Oh, they still get aggravated every now and then, but nothing like it used to be. I remember when I used to run at home on Saturday nights, the people run at the end of the grandstand to see what happened in the pits. You know, somebody big fights, but you know, them days are gone now. It looks like it's more politics now.
Jerry?
Mr. Foyt, Jerry Fraley from the Dallas Morning News. First of all, happy Texas Independence Day. What made 14 an important number for you, and did you have to give your blessing for Tony could run under that number?
No, I was just glad he wanted to run it because I didn't think nobody would ever want to run it. But I'll tell you what, you know, one year I'd win the championship. Next year I might be 3 or 4 or 5. And I remember the great late Vukovich, Bill Vukovich, had that number. Of course, he got killed with that number. But all joking aside, I said, well, hell, every year I got a different number. I just want to reestablish myself with a number and live with it till I quit. And I was awful glad Tony wanted that number. You know, numbers, they want to retire them, but I don't think he should retire them myself because I think if somebody great wants to run a number, it's a big honor on your behalf for them to run the number.
Okay. And Michael?
AJ, with the current generation of IndyCar and with the modifications that were made to this track 2 years ago, number one, do you think IndyCars would put on a good show here? And number two, would you like to see an IndyCar race return to Phoenix?
Well, yes, I would love to see an IndyCar race back here, and I think they'd put on a great show. Nowadays, one thing about the IndyCars, you know, it's a lot of stuff you can't do like you used to could do, so they're pretty matched, pretty even. You got a bunch of young drivers out there, and you got a couple engine manufacturers got good motors. You don't see them blow up like they used to, so I think it'd be a good race, but that's up to the promoters.
All right. Mr. Foyt, thank you again for taking the time to come
Well,
up here with us, and thank you for being here this week.
Well, thanks for inviting me out here, and I'm just glad you did. Got a little vacation. God bless all y'all.